information. It also includes instructions, cautions, UN marks. Sometimes that has to be required on the outer packaging. Hot markings for elevated temperature. Those materials can present thermal hazards in the form of heat. Do we see any of these running around? Have you guys ever seen anything marked hot?
Tar?
Tar. Okay, sometimes when they fill the cracks in the road, that tar, that'll come in a trailer that's marked hot. Okay? Anytime you see something like that, that liquid's gonna be above 212 degrees. Okay? So does that present a little bit of a hazard to us? Yes, it does. Flash point is at or above 100 degrees. It is intentionally heated and offered for transportation or transported at a or above its flash point. I can't even read this morning. Okay, so that's things that we have to watch, and there is some of those around. And we did have a call here a couple years ago. There was a problem on the trailer, and it was marked hot. So we did have to get in and look it up and see what we had to do for it. Anybody that's got rails through, we can also have trailers or tankers on the rails that can be marked hot too. A lot of that is that just says the same thing we just talked about. How it's above 212, flash point is 100. So, but just remember, if you got rails going through, you could have some of this stuff coming through on rails. Everybody's got rails through their town? Do you?
No, tried, it didn't work.
Does nobody use it anymore?
No.
They ripped out all the rails through our area, so we're feeling pretty good. So, okay? And this is probably something you want to remember for your test. And you can always find that in the ERG book back there, what your 9 hazard classes are. Now that would be a good thing to memorize, okay? And then look at your U.S. Transportation system, look at the placards. Placards, labels, and markings. There again, we can find all that stuff in the ERG book. We do talk a little bit about the Canadian placards and markers because we do have some trains, they probably don't get down this far, but they do come into the United States. The problem with the Canadian transport, some of their placards do not have a signal word on them. Okay? Labels and markings may be in both English and French. Yeah, that was easy on Canadian, right? And then we have Mexican. That would be the same thing. That would be the rail cars that come up from Mexico. Some of theirs, it's going to be in Spanish. So that, they still got to have something. We'll still see the colors and the shapes and the classes will all be the same, but some of it might be in Spanish. Okay? So like I said, if you get that ERG book out and go through your 9 classes, that'll give you your colors, and you'll have the basic idea of what those placards mean by just looking at the colors. Mexico does not recognize inhalation placard. Okay? So that would be one that's different from ours. We're going to talk a little bit about the other markings and colors. If you go into a facility that uses some of this corrosive stuff and anything hazardous, you'll start seeing some of these other signs, these other placards and stuff. They're basically just marking systems, labeling systems, color and codes that'll tell you stuff. When we find these markings, they're gonna be found at like a fixed facility. If you go into a big factory, if you go into Polaris, Rosenboom's, Pure Fishing, something like that, you're gonna see these placards and markings posted somewhere, okay? You're gonna find them on pipelines, piping systems, some of them are on just containers. Some of the other markings you might find might just be the word chlorine, stenciled on the outside. Sometimes we're gonna have a site-specific hazard, and that's gonna let you know through a communication system. And then, if you're lucky, you'll get some containers that may be marked with special information. Okay, how many places have you gone into fixed storage facilities? Have you seen this 704?
A lot.
Okay, that you see right there, 444, W with a line through it, you want to be a long ways away from that one. That goes back to the thumb thing. 4 is the worst thing there is. Okay, W with a line through it is no water. So it means it's highly flammable, it's very unstable, and it's got really severe health complications. It's designed to alert emergency responders of these problems that might be in the facility. Health is the blue background, flammability is the red, how stable is it is the yellow, and then the down there where the line through the W, that's their special warnings. This is just a couple of them, whether it's an oxidizer or use no water. Okay, there's a few others. They don't even have them in here, so I won't even go into those. But those are the two main ones. No water is really bad. Okay, you don't want to put nothing in there because it's going to react. Sometimes the 704 is used in different countries outside of North America. Sometimes we might even find these on transportation containers. GHS, that's just a consistent criteria for classifying chemicals. And there again, it goes back to the health, physical, environmental hazards. We want to make sure there's something to do with hazard labels. Safety data sheets. How many's ever looked at a safety data sheet? Okay, you can get a lot of information off those if you can find them. I know I got a very good friend that used to be on the Waterloo Hazmat. He was telling an incident where they came up onto this facility that made the they're like the full-size deer, whatever you can put your skins over and stuff, or use it for target practice. He wanted safety data sheets for it when they got on scene. There was one set where they manufactured, and there was another set in their office. They couldn't get into the manufacturing part, but they made it into the office and got that set. And when they came out, their helmets were melting, and they barely got out with them. there was chemicals in there that they never told the hazmat team was there. And as soon as he looked at what they did have listed, they picked up command and moved it another mile back. So this is why it's nice to have those safety data sheets, and now everybody's putting them on the computer. You know, as long as you got a computer outside, you're okay, but so far we don't have computers in our trucks, so makes it tough to get them, so. This is some of the labeling for some of the chemicals using this GHS. The symbols are still the same, basically. Some of the new ones is environmental hazards, and the warning's a little different, but that's the ones for the GHS system. You're also going to get some of these, what they call them signal words. What you want to look for, like if it says danger on it, that's the most severe hazard category. Okay, if it says warning, it's a little less severe, but it's still there. But watch for those signal words, danger and warning. That's a hazardous statement. OSHA has a hazardous communication standard that requires employers to identify the hazards that's there. And they also have to train the employees how to recognize these hazards. Ensure that all the hazardous material containers are labeled, tagged, or marked with identification. Okay, so we got to make sure that we're doing that. First responders may encounter a variety of different labeling and marking systems. Just depends on what's in your jurisdiction, but these are the ones that OSHA recognizes. This is the Canadian Workplace Hazardous Material Information System. Same thing, they require all the hazardous products to be marked and labeled. And it also on there spells out requirements for safety data sheets. In the Canadian one, they're also going to have two types of labels. Some of them are supplier labels, whatever comes from the supplier, and then there's going to be workplace labels. Both of them are going to have the product name on it and some statement for the safety data sheets. They're replacing some of them from Canada with the new GHS systems. Mexico, same thing, requires employers to ensure hazardous chemical substances in the workplace are appropriate and adequately labeled. Adopts the NFPA 704. Remember, that's the one that goes on the fixed facility. Signals and colors for safety and health. Chemical Abstract Service. That's a division of American Chemical Society. They also have some numbers that they use, and this again, when you find some of these numbers, you're going to be able to tell it right to the hazmat team. When you get their techs and specialists, they'll know right where to look for this stuff. It's going to have individual chemicals, chemical compounds, if it's polymers, mixtures, alloys. There's over 100 million substances that are registered. So does it pay to memorize them? Maybe if you have a couple of them, but there's way too many to memorize, and you don't want to make the wrong move and guess the wrong number. So, military markings. That's their own marking system for hazardous materials and chemicals. They use them on fixed facilities. You might see them on military vehicles, but they're not required to be on the vehicles. Sometimes there's security reasons. Some buildings, areas that store hazardous materials may not be marked. Okay, and you can kind of figure out why that is. Okay? And you gotta remember too, if this is at a facility, the military will have their own people that's gonna be taking care of it. The only problem we have is if it's out on the road somewhere. And then they probably have a big enough convoy that they're gonna take care of it anyway. So, this is just some more of the militaries. It's just a little bit different than what we have. They use more pictures than we do. You know, it kind of basically walks you right through it. Pesticides. They're gonna have hazard statements. They're gonna be phrased, assigned to each category that describes the nature of the hazard. And this is based on current EPA requirements. They're gonna have pictures too, that sometimes make it easier to understand what they're talking about. They're gonna have some precautionary statements, phrases that describe recommended measures that you should be taking, exposure to the hazardous product, these phases cover prevention, response, storage, and how to dispose of the product. We had a call yesterday. I had to send a couple guys out. One of the businesses in Spirit Lake took over a building that used to be a landscape place. And they cleaned out the one shed and threw all the pesticides in the dumpster. The neighbors were real irritated on the smell. So the cop called Hazmat out of Sioux City, and then they called us, and we had to go with SCBA's and floor dry to dry out these chemicals that are in the dumpster. And once they're dried, they can be transported to the landfill. But there again, they went through Hazmat in Sioux City to know what to do with it. And they said it still stinks, so the neighbors are probably gonna be complaining for another couple days.
What was it?
But why would you not find out first where to take instead of just dump them in the dumpster?
What was it?
You know, I didn't go out, I sent a couple guys out there, so I don't know exactly what it was, but there were several.
Sure.
Because it's cheaper and easier.
Yeah, cause if you take it to the disposal site, they usually charge you for how much ever it is, but look how much simpler it'd been if they just loaded it up and took it there. Then they could've dealt with it. So, anyway, so they're gonna have a lot of complaints the next few days until that dries out, and then they can get it out of the dumpster, so. Some of these pesticides, you're gonna be, it should include identities of the ingredients, hazardous information, it should appear on the label. The one problem that we have with pesticides, anybody tell me what that is? Are you gonna get every ingredient that's in there?
No trade secrets.
Trade secrets. You know, but you can call that company and they'll tell you how to deal with it. They don't have to tell you what it is, but they'll have to tell you how to deal with it. So, but yeah, trade secrets is a big one. Remember the safety words? Warning and dangerous. Okay? Warning is less severe, dangerous is severe. Just remember those. Some of those do have a third signal word, is caution, which is used along with warning and danger. Okay? How many know what PCBs are?
Not good stuff.
Okay, what did they used to use them in?
Transformers.
And what's still in them?
Ballast.
There is still some out there with PCBs in it. They don't have to change them out just to change them out, but if they fail, then they're changed out. Okay? It was a real hazard to everybody, but one thing about it, it kept transformers cool and they lasted forever. Now, of course, we went to electronic ballasts and stuff, that helped out too, but it's what kept them cool. ISO safety symbols, that's the International Organization for Standardization. It'd be really nice if everybody in the whole country, the whole world could use the same symbol and the same number. We're getting closer, but there still is some differences. This is some of the ISO symbols. The shapes might be different, the colors might be different, but look at what the pictures are. You know, you can almost figure it out even if you didn't know what it was. You know, if you see the corrosive symbol, everybody knows the radiation symbol. We had a real problem in Spirit Lake one time. We had a semi parked at a construction site, and some kids went over and turned around the radiation symbol. And you should have seen everybody scrambling to see if there was something in that trailer that was radioactive. And kids got in a little bit of trouble. Because there wasn't, it was just construction stuff in the trailer, but that's things you don't know. But if you see that symbol, you have to assume that's in there. Okay? So just watch that. Safety colors. That's just your basic stuff. Red means danger, stop. We're going to use that on flammable liquids, emergency stop bars, stop buttons, anything fire protection equipment, that's going to have red. The orange, that means warning, and it's used on energized equipment, hazardous machinery with parts that can crush or cut. Yellow is caution. Solid yellow, yellow and black stripes, or yellow with black checkers may be used to indicate physical hazards such as tripping hazards. Also used on containers with corrosive or unstable materials. Green is your safety equipment. That's your first aid station, your safety showers, and your exits. Blue is safety information. That just marks wherever your signage will take you to, such as what you need for PPE to get into that area. So that's going to be all the safety information you need to deal with this stuff. we already talked a little bit about your, safety data sheets. When you go to your fixed facilities, you're gonna have those there, you're gonna have inventory records, you're gonna have some type of, facility documents to know where that stuff's at, signs, markings. Or there again, we're gonna be looking at container shapes to know what it might be. We're gonna be looking for any other kind of label that we can find. There again, if it's a transportation incident, the first thing we're gonna do is pull out our ERGs back there with our binoculars and see if we can read numbers. And if it looks like we can get close enough, try to get the shipping papers out of the door. Okay? Shipping papers, that's anything that has hazardous materials must be accompanied by shipping papers. And on that shipping papers, it's gonna describe what's back there. Here it tells, just like if it's air, we're gonna be looking at an air bill, and it's gonna be in a cockpit somewhere. Look for the pilot. What happens if it's an aircraft? What good's the pilot gonna do? If he crashes on the ground, how many times does the pilot walk away from it? So that means we're gonna be looking for it. Highways, bill of lading. It's gonna be in the vehicle cab. The driver's responsible for it. Rail, it's a train list. It's gonna be either in the engine or the caboose, depends on where the engineer is, or the conductor, I mean. He's the one that's gonna have this list. How many have had train classes? Has anybody ever taken a class with a train? We used to have them at like Emmitsburg, and they would, can't remember that, is it Pacific that comes through here?
Union Pacific?
Union Pacific, I think, and there's another one.
Canadian.
Canadian Pacific. And you know what, it's been so long, I can't remember how they number those cars. But if you get that list from the rail, it'll tell you what's in each car. And there's gotta be, like if it's flammable, there's gotta be so many cars between the next one. So, but they stack it all up and you can follow back, but I thought they numbered from the back to the engine. But I don't remember, but there is a way to do that. So just remember, but what's the problem if a train derails?
They're all thrown all over the place.
They're all over the place, so you're not gonna know exactly what order they're in, okay? If you're on water, if it's on a ship, it's a dangerous cargo manifest. It's either gonna be up on the bridge, captain or the master's gonna have those papers. Shipping papers, they're gonna have things listed in order. ISHP, it's gonna be identification number. S is proper shipping name, H is hazard, class, or division, and P it's how it's packaged. Anytime you see one of those on a bill of lading, if it has an X by it, that means it's hazardous material. And that's anything that's potential fire, explosion, or a health hazard. So now anymore, how many things can you actually ship that's not one of those? I mean, they got everything classified as a hazard anymore. So pretty soon, like the carriage bolts here, they're gonna figure out that they put those around bolts or bombs and make shrapnel out of them. So pretty soon it's gonna be there.
That or it causes cancer in California.
If you eat them, right? Yeah, cancer in California. So all that stuff starts out there.
Lick the protective coating off.
And remember, if we have an incident with these, we need to check with the responsible party to locate the shipping papers. We need to have those. It's the responsible party to carry them, or not to carry them. Check for appropriate locations where they left from. They might have them there too. Here again, if it's in a truck or an airplane, it's gonna be close to the driver or the pilot. This stuff is all right over and over and over.
Welcome to firefighter one.
Alright, safety data sheet. This is the new name for them. How many know what the old name was?
MSDS.
Huh?
Material.
Safety material data sheets, and I still catch myself calling them that, but they're just safety data sheets now. But they're gonna list them. I used to have some samples of those. I got some from Pure Fishing and Polaris and Rosenboom's. They won't give me the real technical ones, but it was nice enough to look at because you could see some of the stuff that was on them. Some of the stuff you might see, it has information, specific information about the product. Actually, I had some from one of my warehouses too, for the electrical stuff. And there was even down to, it was like 6 or 8 colors of gray paint. How the gray paint might be different. I mean, all that stuff's in there, so they gotta list all of it. We can get them from manufacturers of the materials, suppliers, and the shippers. Emergency response centers such as Chemtrek. Sometimes they're attached to shipping papers, okay? They're used worldwide. There again, the potential hazards that they're gonna point out is fire, explosions, and health. What precautions need to be taken to protect the responders? This is, the SDS is organized according to OSHA regulations. The first thing they're gonna do is some type of identification. Gonna identify the chemicals, the recommended use, provide essential contact information of the supplier. So if you get one of these chemicals, you can actually have a number to call, and it'll get them right to the people that make this stuff, okay? Section 2 is hazard identification, the hazards of the chemical present, appropriate warning information. Section 3 is composition information on the ingredients. What that's gonna do is identify ingredients contained in the product. There again, if it's a trade secret, you won't get the trade secret, okay? Includes information on substance, mixtures, all chemicals where trade secrets are claimed. So, like I said, if it's a trade secret, you won't get the answer. But if you call them, they don't have to tell you what the secret is, but they need to tell you how you gotta have to deal with it, okay? Section 4 is first aid, and all that does is gonna tell you what you need to do for first aid for this stuff. Section 5 is firefighting measures, and that's just recommendations on what we have to do to fight the fire. And this fire is usually caused by a chemical, so sometimes water's not the best answer. Section 6 is accidental releases. And all this is recommendations on appropriate response to spills, leaks, or releases. Containment, cleanup. We want to make sure we prevent or minimize exposure to people, property, and environment. Okay? And also in there, there's going to be something that's going to distinguish between responses for large spills and small spills. Section 7, handling and storage is just safe handling practices, conditions of safe storage. Section 8, exposure control, personal protection. All that's going to tell us is the exposure limits engineering controls, personal protective measures. We wanna make sure that we minimize the worker exposure. Physical, 9 is physical and chemical properties. Identifies physical, chemical properties associated with substance or mixture. 10 is stability and reactivity. These are broken down into 3 parts: reactivity, chemical stability, and other. I always love the word other. Section 11, toxicology. It's just gonna identify health effects, indicate such data sometimes is not available. Section 12 is ecological information. 13 is disposal considerations. We're gonna have guidance on how we get rid of stuff, the proper disposal, recycling, or if we have to reclaim the chemical. Section 14 is transportation information. That provides guidance on classifications for shipping, whether this is transported by road, air, rail, or sea. 15 is regulatory information. Just identifies safety, health, environmental regulations. And section 16 is other information. Indicates when the SDS was prepared or when the last known revision was made. May state if there's changes. Out now or not? Let's go ahead and pass out those ERGs back there. Pass one up here too, would you? Thanks. Does anybody know if these are the new ones?
It doesn't appear that way.
Excellent.
2008.
What is the new one?
2016.
16 is the new one. It's on my phone, but my wife has it. So it doesn't do me much good. Anyway, we'll go through this real quick and then we'll look at this ERG real quick. The emergency response book is to provide guidance to personnel who may be first to arrive on the scene. Basically what this is going to help is firefighters, law enforcement, and other agencies. The ERG is going to help identify material specific or generic hazards. Okay, it's going to provide basic guidance on how to protect yourself and the general public during an incident. The ERG does not address all possible circumstances. Primarily designed to be used at incidents occurring on the highway or railway. And it's got a limited value, okay? After so many minutes, this is no good. But this is your general information on how we have to do something. So, if you look in on the first pages, what do you have?
How to use.
Okay? So, this tells you right in here what you need to do, how to use the book. It has your classification systems. That has your table for placards. You can even see your placards. It goes into rail car identification, road trailer identifications. Some of the identification numbers are your intermodal containers. Your pipeline information. So the white section is basically information. It's going to get you where you need to go by looking at some of those. You can kind of tell by what the trailer is, how to look up the numbers. Okay, then you go to the yellow section. What do you notice about the yellow section?
Numerical order.
Yeah, it's all your numbers. That's going to be your 4-digit numbers. If you can see that, you look up the 4-digit numbers. Okay? So after the 4-digit numbers, what do you see?
Guide number.
Okay? Guide number. Anybody know where the guides are at?
Green.
If it's highlighted in green. If it's not highlighted in green, where are the guide numbers?
Blue.
Orange section, right. That's going to tell you how to handle it. This is really quick going through this, let me tell you.
I'll dig into that. No, he said he's gonna send it first.
What's that?
I thought it started at 9.
I wish I could have.
Another hour's sleep for me.
No. Okay, so if you go to the blue section, what do you have? Blue section's alphabetical. So if you don't have the 4-digit number, you can look it up by its name. Okay? So now, yeah, these guys, you might want to pass these up, a couple guys. We're just going real quick through the ERG. So if you got something that's highlighted in green, what do? Go to the green section. That's going to tell you how far to isolate. Okay? What do you see on that chart? You have the name of the material, then what do you have? Whether it's a small spill or a large spill.
And then
How about day or night? What's the difference between day and night?
Distance to protect.
What else? I heard something back there.
Distance.
Temperature. Okay. That's all plays in between day and night, so that makes a difference.
How do they classify between a large and a small? Is there a set?
Alright, where do we find that at? Let me see.
drum or somewhere.
Just had this too, I should remember where that's at.
It says there,
If you go to page 290, well,
or it's 285.
in the 2012, it says there the first couple pages, it's table 1 in the green. Small spill is one involved a single small package or a drum. Anything 55 gallons. A large spill is one that involves a spill from a large package or multiple spills. Okay, so 55 gallons or less is a small spill. But if you have more than that, even if it's a combination of two 55s, it's a large spill. Okay? It also tells you to watch your wind directions. It explains day and night. Let's see, what else do we want out of that? Oh, go to, okay, go to guide 145. If you look up there, everybody there? If you go up to potential hazards, what's the first thing listed?
Explosion, heat, or contamination.
Okay, fire and explosion's the top priority. Health is second. Okay? Now go to 154. What do you have there?
Health.
Health is number one. It's toxic. Okay, and then fire or explosion is after that. So it's going to tell you what the top priority is by just looking at the guide, if you can get to the right guide. It also tells you what your protective clothing will be, how far to evacuate unless it's in green. Whether it's a small fire or large fire, if it's a spill or leak, and first aid. Okay, that's all under that. Now there's one thing to remember, if we got one of those that's highlighted in green, if there's no fire, you go directly to the green. If there's a fire or fire is involved, then you forget the green and you go to the orange, because that'll tell you how to handle the fire. What else do we need to know in here?
So what do you use the blue?
That's if you know the name of the chemical, you can look it up alphabetically, and then you can get your 4-digit number. Go to page 4 in your white. You should be under hazard classification system. Okay, that's what you want. Just kind of remember what your classes are there, but look at under explosives. There's a lot to look underneath those. Okay? And just remember, we're going to have more of those coming through here now that fireworks are legal. Okay? Gases, flammable liquids, flammable solids, oxidizers, your toxic substance, radioactive material, corrosive materials, miscellaneous hazardous materials. You gotta hate that class because you don't know for sure what it is. Okay, it's probably a mixed load to have dangerous put on there. Okay, and I do believe you can take these in to your test site when you take your hazmat test. But they will go through page by page and make sure you don't have any extra little notes in there.
Is it necessary to take them?
I would assume you probably have to look something up.
They're not gonna have those there for you to look it up.
Our guys took them, and they said they were gonna look through them for notes. That's all I know about it. See, I'm just as much in the dark about this as you guys are. It's, fire service dropped the ball on this one. Oh, let's see, what else can we get through here quick? Your facility documents, the hazardous communication standard requires U.S. employers to maintain chemical inventory lists. Anything that's hazardous, they have to have it listed. Some of the other documents and records, they have to be able to provide information for hazardous materials. One of them, shipping, receiving documents, inventory records, risk management, and hazardous communication plans. Chemical inventory reports, tier 2. Right now we're getting tier 2 from all of our people that have hazardous materials. This is the time of year they have to send it to the fire department. So I end up with 20 or 30 trips to the post office to get a registered letter that says it's their tier 2 reports. They have to list everything they have hazardous. Also with those tier 2, we have to have some type of facility crew plan. So we gotta know how we have to get in and out of there. Local emergency planning committee. Designed to provide a forum for emergency management agencies, responders, industry, the public. All those have to be able to be prepared for this. Everybody knows who their emergency manager is for their county. Have you dealt with them? Guys in Harley? Have you dealt with your emergency manager? Do you ever see him?
We saw him 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
At a fire call. I think it was 2 weeks ago.
I got to brag, in Dickinson County we have an outstanding emergency manager. You never have to call him, he's there. And he goes out of his road to get you what you need. So work with your emergency manager, because they're a lot of help. They're a lot of information, and they can get you a lot of stuff. Okay?
Ours is on fire department.
Huh?
Ours is on fire department.
There you go. So you got him. Okay. These are some of the ones that you can get on. They're electronic. It makes it easy. Like he's got it back there. The ERG you can get on your phone, computer. Instead of looking it up in the book, you can do it on your phone. I bet you they won't let you do your phone on the test site though. I'm pretty sure they won't get to do that with the phone. Cameo's one, Weiser's one. That's basically what this is. It just fine tunes the chemicals for you. How many's ever taken Hazmat IQ? If you guys are beginners, probably none of you. I've been through it a couple times, but we don't use it enough. I'd really like to take it again. It makes it simple. We can throw half of this stuff away if everybody went to Hazmat IQ, because you have flip charts. And you look it up. Is it above the line or below the line? If it's above, you go to this chart. If it's below, you go to this chart. You look on that chart. If it's above the line, below the line, you go to another chart. So within 30 seconds, you can figure out exactly what you have to do. I should have brought the charts with it because I got a couple sets. But it's really pretty cool. If you get a chance to set through one of them, it's pretty decent. Okay? Hazmat IQ. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about how these hazardous materials, we can detect them with our senses. Vision is definitely the safest of the 5 senses to use, because you don't have to be right on top of it. You can use binoculars. Hearing from a distance, you can hear leaks or something, especially if it's pressurized. You can hear the discharge of the gas or whatever. Emergency responders must come close, actual physical contact with some of this to do the hearing. Remember that a lot of materials, hazardous materials, are invisible, they have no odor, and you can't really detect it by your senses. Hydrogen sulfide, other chemicals may cause fatigue. You may cease to smell, even if you thought it was still present, you might not be able to smell it. Some of that stuff you get into and all of a sudden you can't smell anymore, so you don't know if you're in it or not. You shouldn't be in it if you can smell it. Taste. That's another bad one. You should never taste it. The old Hazmat films you used to watch the captain go over to the train car and it's leaking and he takes his finger like this and so he's dead, right? Don't know what the hell's in there, but he smelled it and tasted it. Like, okay, man. Some of those chemicals, invisible gas clouds, pungent odors, irritating fumes. Some of those things you get into, you can't get back out of. So that's why we have to have meters with us, so we know where this area is. Listen for unusual noises. Some materials have odorants added to them, so there again, if it's in a certain pipeline and it's natural gas, you might not smell it because it might not have the mercaptan in it yet. If we look at it, use our vision, we can see a spreading vapor cloud, smoke, unusual color of smoke, flames, your PPE fails, dying or discolored vegetation, containers bulging. Is that a good sign or a bad sign?
Bad.
That's a bad sign. Sick humans.
Bad.
Okay, we talked about that. If the cop is dead, that's the hot zone. If he's flopping, that's the warm zone. And if everybody else is out here talking, that's the cold zone. Okay? That's why we have instruments to tell us where this stuff is at. Okay? We don't want to walk into it and be a problem. Why would we have dying or discolored vegetation? If we have a gas or pipeline that's leaking underground, that's the first thing we look for, is dying vegetation. Okay? We had a tree on a power line the other day after the ice storm, and it was smoking coming down. It was still attached to the tree, but it fell like this on the primary. It was smoking and arcing in the joint. It was smoking at the bottom of the tree. We went over, not too close, but we got over there and found a paralyzed rabbit on the ground bleeding. So we knew the voltage was going to the ground, so we stayed out of there. Okay? That's things you look for. If that rabbit hadn't been there, we probably would have never thought nothing about it, but we seen that rabbit there. And it still took a line until 3 o'clock in the afternoon to get there to kill it. So, but just look for some of that stuff. Dying birds, animals, insects. Are the fish floating?
Not much.
How about this one? Would you walk up to this one? How many placards is on there?
Quite a few.
Which one's leaking?
All of them. Possibly.
That's what you have to assume, because you don't know. Would you go up there and open that?
No.
No.
Not me. That's why I get to stay back. That would be really tough. Flammable oxidizer, corrosive. I can't read some of that. Flammable solids. Poison. That could be just about anything. Okay? So that's the trucks we have to watch out for.
In Florida.
Hey, it is Florida plate, ain't it? Good catch. They can keep it down there.
Keep it there.
We gotta watch out for some of the chemical reactions. Out of that, we're gonna end up with heat. We could have unusual or unexpected temperature drops, extraordinary fire conditions, splattering or boiling, have a distinctive color vapor cloud, particular smells. If you hear a pressure relief valve that's going off, that's usually that the cylinder's overpressurized. If you hear pinging or popping, that means the vessel is either in contact with cold or heat. If you got something cryogenic, you're going to have frost or ice building up near the leak. Now, if you're on the ground, are you going to be able to see that sheen very well?
No.
No, that'd be a little bit of a problem. What'd be the best way to do that?
To see it?
Yeah, to see it.
Use a drone or something?
Get a drone or elevate or something. Look down on it and see what you got. Okay, we talked about some of this already. Smoking, self-igniting materials.